Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time I think we're tackling something that's pretty much on everyone's mind these days. Mental wellness.
Yeah.
It seems like every time I turn around, there's another article or podcast about it.
Right.
But for this deep dive, we're going a little deeper.
Yep.
You sent in some really fascinating sources, and I'm excited to unpack them with our expert here.
Absolutely.
It looks like you're interested in moving beyond just, getting by to a place where you're really thriving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that shift in focus from just the absence of illness to actually thriving is really what we're seeing in the mental wellness field these days.
Okay, so thriving, what does that actually look like when we're talking about mental well-being?
One of your sources defines it as having the energy and resilience to not just bounce back from challenges, but to actually grow from them.
Okay.
It also talks about feeling a sense of purpose, having strong relationships, and being able to make clear decisions even when things get tough.
So more than just feeling happy all the time.
More about
Yes.
having the tools and resources to navigate the ups and downs.
Absolutely.
Okay. And one thing that jumped out at me as I was going through the material was this idea that mental well-being is somehow connected with our physical health.
Yeah, one of your sources actually cites a study that found people who reported good mental health also had better physical health outcomes.
Really?
They were more likely to exercise and had lower rates of chronic disease.
It was not just about feeling good, it's
Yeah.
also about being healthy.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pretty strong argument
Yeah.
for prioritizing this stuff.
Absolutely. And another interesting point that comes up is the need to really dismantle the stigma around mental health.
Yeah.
We're finally moving away from the idea that seeking help is a sign of weakness.
I think we are. We see workplaces offering mental health days, even promoting therapy as a resource for employees.
And it's not just workplaces. Schools are starting to incorporate mental health education into their curriculum.
It's so important. Creating spaces for students to talk openly about their mental well-being.
Especially in today's high-pressure world.
Absolutely. It's about normalizing the idea that everyone struggles and that seeking support is a sign of strength.
Okay, so we've talked about thriving, we've talked about busting the stigma. What about the actual tools and strategies to build our mental wellness? You mentioned resilience earlier. Is that something we can learn?
Absolutely. One of your sources describes it as the ability to adapt and cope in the face of adversity, and like any skill, it can be developed and strengthened.
So how do we build it? Give me the inside scoop. What does
Well-
the source say?
There are a number of practices highlighted,
Oh, yeah.
and they range from simple everyday actions to more structured techniques.
Okay.
For instance, one source talks about the importance of building strong social connections. Having that support network of friends and family can make a huge difference.
I get that. It's like a safety net.
Exactly. And then there were practices like mindfulness and meditation, which help us manage stress, regulate our emotions.
Okay, mindfulness, I've heard a lot about it, but I'm still not totally sure what it is.
Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. Think of it as a way of training your attention to be present without judgment.
Okay.
It's about noticing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away.
So you're not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
Right.
You're just
In the moment.
in the moment.
That's hard in today's world.
It can be challenging at first, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes.
It's like even 5 minutes a day could make a difference.
Absolutely.
What?
Even just taking a few minutes to focus on your breath
Oh.
or to do a mindful activity.
What kind of mindful activity?
One of your sources suggests taking a walk in nature, paying attention to the sights and sounds,
Oh, that's nice.
or even mindfully preparing a meal,
Okay.
focusing on each step.
So it's about
Okay.
bringing awareness
Yeah.
to everyday things.
Exactly.
Okay. I want to go back to self-care for a sec, because it feels like that's
Yeah.
become a bit of a buzzword.
Okay.
One of the things your sources emphasize is that self-care is not about indulgence. It's about taking intentional actions
Okay.
to nurture your physical,
Yeah.
mental, and emotional health.
So not just bubble baths and face masks.
Right.
Though I'm all for those too. It's about
One of your sources compares it to putting on your own oxygen mask on a plane before helping others.
I love that. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. If you're not taking care of your own needs, you can't show up for others.
What are some concrete examples?
Your sources mention a wide range of activities. It comes down to what works best for you.
Okay.
Some people find exercise, really beneficial. Others find solace in creative pursuits like painting or writing,
Okay.
spending time in nature, listening to music, reading a good book.
So it's about making time for things that bring you joy.
Absolutely.
Okay. And one thing I thought was really helpful was this idea of starting small.
Yes, you don't have to overhaul your whole life.
Okay. So you don't have to
Because-
become a yoga master overnight.
Exactly. Small steps, big impact.
I like.
It's about making self-care a part of your routine.
All right. I'm already feeling inspired. But before we go too far, I want to circle back to that connection between food, sleep, and mood.
Yeah, get ready for some aha moments. Your sources really dive into the research behind how what we eat and how we sleep directly impacts our mental state.
Okay.
A healthy diet and 7 to 9 hours of good quality sleep are essential for a healthy mind.
That makes sense. When I'm sleep deprived, everything feels worse.
It definitely makes you more irritable, more prone to feeling overwhelmed.
So what's the takeaway? Ditch the caffeine, become a health nut.
Not necessarily. It's all about finding what works for you. Your sources encourage a balanced approach.
Okay.
Small, sustainable changes over time.
Small changes, big impact, right? Less overwhelming.
Exactly. And remember, it's about listening to your body,
Okay.
paying attention to how different foods and sleep habits make you feel.
So tuning into what our bodies need to thrive. I love it. This has been a great conversation so far. I'm feeling a lot more equipped to prioritize my mental well-being. But we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to explore, so stay tuned for part 2, where we'll dive into some specific techniques and practices you can implement right away.
Sound good?
Welcome back. I'm so ready to get into some of those actionable strategies for boosting our mental wellness.
Me too.
We've laid some really great groundwork, but now I want to know, what can we actually do?
Well, one practice that came up repeatedly in your sources
Yeah.
and that we touched on earlier is mindfulness.
Okay, mindfulness. Sometimes it seems a bit too zen for me.
I understand that.
Like, how does just sitting there, noticing my breath actually make a difference?
That's a great question. And one of your sources actually addresses this directly. It says that when we practice mindfulness, we're training our brains to become more aware of our thoughts and feelings without getting carried away by them.
Okay, so instead of automatically reacting to every stressor that comes up, we're learning to hit the pause button. Exactly.
It's about developing that ability to observe our thoughts and emotions with curiosity rather than judgment.
Okay.
And the more we practice, the better we get at recognizing thought patterns that might be causing us stress or anxiety.
So it can help us break free from those
Negative.
thought loops.
Exactly.
But how does it work in the real world?
Okay, let's say you're stuck in traffic
Okay.
and you start to feel your blood pressure rising.
Been there.
A mindful approach might involve noticing those physical sensations of anger or frustration,
Okay.
the tightness in your chest, the clenched jaw.
So I'm not letting the anger take over.
Oh, right. You're just
Got it.
acknowledging it
Yeah.
and letting it pass.
And then maybe take a few deep breaths.
Exactly. Focus on the sensation of your breath
Okay.
that can help to calm your nervous system.
So it's like interrupting that automatic reaction
Yes.
and choosing a more intentional response.
Exactly.
That's fascinating.
And it's something you can do anytime, anywhere.
What are some other ways to incorporate mindfulness into my daily life?
Well, one practice is a body scan meditation. You basically lie down or sit comfortably and bring your attention to different parts of your body,
Okay.
noticing any sensations without judgment.
So I can release tension I didn't even know I was holding.
Exactly.
That sounds really relaxing. Speaking of things that can help us relax, I want to talk about gratitude.
Okay.
It seems like it's everywhere these days.
That's a popular topic.
But how does it actually work?
That's a great question, and researchers have been exploring this more and more. There's growing evidence that practicing gratitude can have a real impact on our well-being.
So it's not just a
Yeah.
feel-good practice.
Right, it goes deeper than that.
There's actual science behind it.
Yes. One of your sources cites a study that found that people who regularly practice gratitude
Yeah,
had lower levels of stress and anxiety,
really.
improved sleep, even stronger immune systems.
Those are some pretty big benefits.
They are.
But I think what a lot of people struggle with is how to actually cultivate a gratitude practice.
One practice that comes up a lot is keeping a gratitude journal. Take a few minutes each day
Okay.
to write down things you're grateful for.
That could really help shift your perspective,
It can.
especially when you're feeling down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another tip is to express your gratitude to others.
No.
Whether it's a simple thank you or a heartfelt letter, Expressing gratitude can boost your happiness and strengthen relationships.
I like that. Okay, so we've got mindfulness, we've got gratitude. What about affirmations?
Okay.
Do those really work?
I understand the skepticism, but there's research that supports
Yeah.
the effectiveness of affirmation,
Really?
especially for shifting negative thought patterns.
So it's not just repeating feel-good phrases.
Right.
There's more to it.
The idea is that our thoughts create our reality. So if we're constantly thinking negatively,
Okay.
it's going to affect us. Affirmations can help interrupt those negative thoughts.
So we can replace them with more positive ones.
Exactly.
And it takes practice.
It does like any new skill.
Mm.
One of your sources recommends choosing affirmations that resonate with you
Okay.
and repeating them throughout the day.
Okay. What are some examples?
Well, it depends on what you're working on. If you're trying to boost your confidence, you might repeat, I am strong and capable,
Okay.
or I believe in myself.
I like that.
If you're struggling with anxiety, you could try, I am safe and secure, or I can handle whatever comes my way.
Okay. It's like a pep talk.
Exactly.
All right. I'm definitely going to give that a try. What else?
Let's talk about setting boundaries.
Ooh, boundaries. That's something I need help with.
It's a common struggle, but one of your sources makes a great point. Setting boundaries is an act of self-care.
Okay, but how do you actually do it?
It's about communication and assertive language. One source suggests using I statements. For
Okay.
example, instead of saying, you're always asking me to do things, you could say, I'm feeling overwhelmed and I need some time for myself.
Okay, that sounds less accusatory.
Exactly.
But what if they don't take it well?
That's where you have to stand your ground. You could say, I understand you're disappointed, but this is what I need.
So I'm prioritizing my well-being, even if it means disappointing someone else.
Right, and it might mean distancing yourself from people who don't respect your boundaries.
Okay, good reminder. This is really helpful stuff. But before we wrap up this section, I want to talk about self-compassion,
Okay.
because that seems to tie into everything we've talked about.
It does. One of your sources describes self-compassion as treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend.
I think that's where I struggle. I'm way too hard on myself.
It's a common tendency, but self-compassion can help.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging our imperfections without shame.
So instead of beating myself up, I should be offering myself
Yeah.
a kind word.
Yes, one practice is to talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend.
Okay.
What would you say to them?
That's a good point. I think we're all much kinder to others
Yeah.
we are than we are towards other
Another
people.
tip is to practice mindfulness. When those self-critical thoughts come up, just notice them without judgment.
I'm starting to see how all of these practices work together
Guys, they're all interconnected.
to create this positive mindset.
Exactly.
This has been so eye-opening. I'm feeling so much more equipped to take charge of my well-being.
That's great to hear.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear more about the role of purpose and creativity in mental wellness.
That's good.
So stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore those topics and wrap up our deep dive.
All right, we're back for the final part of our mental wellness deep dive. And I'm so excited to explore these last couple themes.
Me too. We've covered so much already. But this next piece is really important.
Okay, hit me with it.
It's about purpose.
Purpose. Huh? I usually think of that in terms of like career, you know, finding my calling.
Right. But one of your sources talks about purpose as a deeper sense of meaning and direction in life.
Okay, so it's not just about what you do.
It's about feeling connected to something larger than yourself. So like my job might provide for me financially, but it's my volunteer work that makes me feel like I'm making a difference.
Exactly, and there's research that shows people with a strong sense of purpose have lower rates of depression and anxiety and even live longer.
Really? So having a purpose can actually help you live longer.
It can.
That's amazing. But what if you're feeling lost? Like you haven't found your thing yet?
That's where those sources come in handy. They offer some really practical tips.
Okay, like what?
One is to think about the things that bring you joy, the things that light you up.
So not one big purpose, just things you enjoy.
It could be anything: gardening, writing poetry, volunteering, learning a new language.
It's all about creating a life that feels rich and meaningful.
It's like,
Okay, we talked about purpose.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about creativity.
Yes, this is a topic I love. It's often overlooked when we talk about mental wellness.
I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm not creative.
Right, they think you have to be an artist.
Huh?
But it's so much broader than that.
Okay, so what do you mean?
Creativity can be anything: cooking, writing, playing music, even redecorating your home.
So it's more about finding an outlet. to express yourself.
Yes, and it can be incredibly therapeutic.
It's like giving your mind a break.
Exactly, one source describes it as tapping into your inner child, reconnecting with that sense of play.
That's a great way to put it. And the best part is, there are no rules.
Absolutely, you don't have to be good at it. It's about the process.
This has been such an incredible journey. We've gone from those practical strategies like mindfulness and gratitude to these deeper concepts like purpose and creativity.
And it's all connected. Mental wellness is a journey.
It really is. And I feel so much more prepared to prioritize my well-being now.
That's wonderful to hear.
Thank you so much for all of your insight.
It was my pleasure. Remember, small steps can make a big difference.
That's a great reminder.
Keep learning. Keep taking care of yourself.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, be well.